I'm Elise. I'm 42. And I've never said this out loud, but I think the moment you realize your life isn't your own anymore, when your identity becomes something you squint to remember, it doesn't come as a bang. It's more like a slow leak. You don't even know you're drowning until you're halfway to the bottom. This story? It's about betrayal, yes. But it's also about what we let rot quietly behind closed doors while we keep smiling for family pictures. I was married to Daniel for almost 19 years. We had this rhythm, you know? That unspoken comfort that comes from familiarity. He used to trace small circles on my wrist while we watched movies. I used to love that. I used to lean into his touch like it anchored me. But that was then. Now, when he reaches for my hand during dinner, I feel myself stiffen before I can stop it. The circles feel mechanical. Like muscle memory rather than intention. We kiss hello and goodbye, still, but it's a muted thing, lips brushing without the breathless pause after. There used to be a pause. That's the thing no one tells you about long-term love. Sometimes it doesn't die in a firestorm. It just recedes. I didn't always feel like this. There was a time, not so long ago, when Daniel could walk into a room and I'd feel this flush of electricity. Even after our son, Caleb, was born, we found ways to keep it playful. Spontaneous. We'd dance barefoot in the kitchen to terrible 90s ballads, giggling like fools while pasta boiled over. I remember once, maybe 4 years ago, we got caught in the rain walking to the car after a movie. Instead of running, he pulled me close, kissed me like we were teenagers, wet hair clinging to our cheeks. That night, we didn't even make it to the bedroom. We laughed through it all, half naked and dripping on the carpet. That memory feels like someone else's now. These days, the only thing we seem to coordinate is the school run. The heat between us is still there, somewhere, I think, but it's buried under bills, resentment, and the sound of Caleb slamming his door after another moody outburst. He's 17. Tall. Handsome like his father, but sharper around the edges. There's a bitterness in him lately that I can't reach. And God help me, I thought I was doing everything right, the PTA meetings, the quiet sacrifices, the careful balancing act between being a mother and still somehow, somewhere, a woman. But I feel invisible. Even our intimacy, the rare nights it happens, feels like an obligation. He kisses me, but his mind is elsewhere. I close my eyes and try to remember what it was like to be desired. To be looked at like I mattered. Last month, we were sitting on the couch. Caleb had gone to bed early after another argument about his grades. I leaned into Daniel's side, placed my hand on his chest, just trying, to reconnect. He kissed the top of my head and said, "You're so good with him. I don't know how you do it." It was kind. It was loving. But it wasn't desire. And for some reason, that's when it hit me. I looked up at him and realized I didn't remember the last time he looked at me like a woman instead of a co-parent, a housemate, a habit. I lay awake that night next to him, listening to his even breathing. My body ached for something I couldn't name. Not just sex, though yes, that too, but recognition. Presence. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being me and started being everyone's caretaker. Daniel's partner. Caleb's mother. The woman who remembers birthdays and folds the towels just right and listens without interrupting. But who listens to me? And then Caleb did something. Something that made my blood run cold. That's where it really started, the unraveling. But if I'm being honest, the threads had been loosening for years. And I was too tired, too lonely, or maybe too loyal to pull them tight again. Daniel's a paramedic. Always has been. Always the first to run into the chaos while others run the other way. I used to admire that about him. Still do, I suppose, the way he's wired to fix broken things. But what no one tells you is how often those kinds of men come home empty. How often they run out of words before they ever walk through the door. He carries other people's trauma like it's strapped to his back. I've watched him come in at 3 a.m., covered in someone else's blood, peel off his uniform in silence, and sit on the edge of the bed like he's forgotten where he lives. When Caleb was 6, he asked me why Daddy never smiled after work. I told him it was because Daddy did brave things and brave things were heavy sometimes. But what happens when that heaviness starts to fall on you, too? Lately, Daniel's been reaching for me more, not emotionally, but physically. His hands always seem to find my waist when I'm brushing my teeth, or he pulls me close in the kitchen while I'm elbow-deep in a grocery bag. His touches aren't aggressive, they're tender, habitual, but they feel like questions I don't know how to answer. Last week, he came home early. I was on the couch scrolling through messages from the school. Caleb had skipped class again. My stomach was in knots. The kind of tight worry that makes your jaw ache from clenching too long. Daniel dropped his duffel and knelt in front of me, like he used to. He placed both hands on my knees and said, "Let's go upstairs. Just us. Forget everything tonight." I wanted to say yes. I wanted to be that version of me, spontaneous, warm, reachable. But all I could think about was Caleb's face when I confronted him about lying, the way he looked past me like I wasn't even there. "I can't," I said, softer than I meant to. Daniel's hand slid off my knees. He didn't say anything for a moment, then stood up and walked to the kitchen. The fridge opened. The bottle of bourbon clinked softly against the counter. I followed him in. "Dan, it's not that I don't want to. My head is full." "You're always full," he muttered, pouring. "What's that supposed to mean?" He turned to face me, glass in hand. "It means I try. I come home and I try to show you I still want you, and all I get is distance." I flinched. "So, this is my fault now?" He rubbed his temples. "No. I'm just saying. I don't know what you want from me, Elise. I touch you, and you pull away. I give you space, and you say I'm not present. I'm not a mind reader." I stared at the bourbon bottle, wishing I could explain the ache in a way that didn't sound like rejection. "I want to feel seen," I said quietly. "Not touched like a checklist. I need us back. But it doesn't start in the bedroom, Dan." He sighed, set the glass down, and leaned against the counter. "I'm not good with words, Elle. You know that." "That's the thing," I said, my voice breaking. "I know everything about you. I know how you take your coffee, how you tuck your shoulder under when you sleep, how you can't watch hospital dramas because they get the sirens wrong. But you don't ask me anything anymore. You just assume I'll be here. That I'll say yes. That I'll bend." His eyes softened. But he didn't reach for me this time. We stood there in the quiet hum of the kitchen. A marriage paused mid-sentence. Later that night, I heard Caleb on the phone in his room. Whispering. Laughing. A softness in his voice I hadn't heard in months. I stood outside his door, wondering who he could possibly be talking to with so much care, when we could barely get 2 full sentences out of him during dinner. That night, Daniel curled into me in bed and whispered, "I miss you." His arm slid across my waist, heavy and warm. I let him hold me, but I didn't say it back. Because I wasn't sure if he missed me, or the version of me I used to be when things were easier. Something was shifting in the house. Something I couldn't name yet. But I felt it in my bones, and it wasn't just between Daniel and me. It was Caleb. He was hiding something. And I was starting to wonder if it was connected to the thing that had been slipping away between us all along. Daniel came home early again. 3rd time this week. That used to be a rare gift, him walking through the door before sunset, tossing his keys into the bowl and smiling like he meant it. but now, I see the pattern. He's trying. And I'm failing to meet him there. I was folding laundry on the bed when he came up behind me and slapped my butt, not hard, just playful. The way he used to when things were good. I flinched, my shoulders tightening before I could stop them. He paused. Sorry. Just messing around. I forced a smile. Yeah. No, it's fine. But it wasn't fine. My body reacted before I had time to think. That's how disconnected I'd become, not just from him, but from myself. He moved closer, sliding his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. You smell good. It should have been sweet. And once, it might have been. But instead of warmth, I felt boxed in. Like my skin had forgotten how to soften under his touch. I haven't even showered today, I said, half laughing. I like you like this, he murmured. Real. His lips brushed my neck, just once. I stared at the pile of unfolded socks, willing myself to feel something other than dread. I didn't pull away. But I didn't lean in either. Daniel didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he did and just didn't want to acknowledge it. He turned me toward him and kissed me. His mouth was familiar, gentle, maybe even hopeful. I kissed him back, a reflex more than a choice. But inside, I was already disappearing. The kiss ended, and he rested his forehead against mine. Let's take a night. Just us. I'll cook. We can open that wine we keep saving. I nodded. Okay. But in my chest, something clenched. The weight of another expectation. Of another moment that would start with wine and laughter and end with him reaching for my body while my heart curled into itself. Later that night, he lit candles. He actually lit candles. Made pasta from scratch. Played music. He was doing everything right. Everything a good man does. I tried. I did. We laughed over dinner. Talked about a patient he helped that week. We even made fun of a terrible playlist Caleb had left on the speaker. It felt easy for a while. But the minute we sat on the couch, wine glasses in hand, I could feel the shift. His hand drifted to my thigh. His body turned toward mine. I miss this, he said softly. You and me. No distractions. I nodded, taking a sip. Yeah. It's nice. He leaned in and kissed me again, this time slower. Longer. And still, nothing. Not revulsion. Not discomfort. Just absence. A hollow quiet where something used to burn. His hand slid under my shirt, fingertips tracing up my side. I pulled back, gently. I'm tired, I said, setting down the wine. He blinked. It's only 9. I shrugged. Didn't sleep well last night. He didn't argue. He just nodded, jaw tight, and stood up to collect the dishes. The romance vanished like steam. I watched him retreat into the kitchen and felt that dull pang of guilt, the kind that eats you from the inside because he's trying, and you don't know how to respond. When I went upstairs, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, every breath heavy with confusion and shame. I used to love his hands on me. I used to crave the way he'd pull me close without asking, the way I'd melt into his chest like I belonged nowhere else. Now, even a kiss makes me question myself. And I hate it. I hate that I don't know when the touch stopped feeling like comfort and started feeling like pressure. When sex became a silent contract instead of a shared language. I rolled over, staring at the outline of his figure moving in the hallway light. Why does everything have to turn into sex? It was supposed to be a simple dinner. Just the 3 of us. Caleb at the table for once instead of eating upstairs with his door shut. Daniel cooked, grilled salmon with lemon and herbs, like he used to when we had guests over. He even lit a candle, again, though this time it felt more like a desperate placeholder for intimacy than romance. I noticed it immediately, the flicker of Daniel's eyes watching me across the table. The way he reached for my hand mid-meal, and I instinctively pulled mine back to refill my water. Caleb didn't say much. He was buried in his phone, barely chewing. I wanted to call him out, but honestly, I didn't have the energy. I was already holding too many things in my chest. Then Daniel said it. I was thinking maybe we could get away for the weekend. Just us. Reset. He smiled like it was a gift. Like he was offering me air. But something in me cracked. A reset? I laughed. Not playfully, bitterly. Like that fixes everything? Daniel blinked. It's just a weekend, Elise. You don't have to, no, I snapped, louder now. I don't have to. That's the point. I don't want to. I can't pretend everything's okay just because you book a damn cabin. Caleb looked up. Mom, but I was already standing. I felt heat rise up my neck, my voice trembling. You keep trying to fix this with wine and getaways and touching me when I'm not even here anymore. I'm not reachable right now, Dan. Daniel stood, his face stiff. Then help me understand. You don't talk. You shut down. I'm trying and it's never good enough. Because you don't see me. I shouted, and immediately hated the volume of my voice in front of our son. You see a role I'm supposed to play, not the person drowning underneath it. Caleb pushed back from the table. Okay, I'm not doing this. He stormed upstairs. I collapsed into my chair, hands over my face. Tears spilled, fast and hot. Not just sadness, grief. For what we used to be. For the person I used to be. Daniel stood frozen. I don't know what else to do, he said finally. I touch you and it's wrong. I back off and it's wrong. I ask for time and you bite my head off. I looked up at him, mascara streaking my cheeks. Because I am empty, Dan. I am touched out, talked out, worn down. And I feel like you only want me when it ends with your hands down my pants. His face went red. That's not fair. No? Then why is it the only time you reach for me is when you want something? Not to ask how I'm doing. Not to talk. Just sex. Always sex. Silence. Just the flicker of the candle between us, mocking. Then Daniel said something that stunned me. Maybe if you didn't treat affection like an attack, it wouldn't feel that way. It punched the breath right out of me. I stood slowly, the chair leg scraping the tile. You don't get it. You really don't. I'm trying, he said again. Quiet. But I could see the wall go up behind his eyes. And then I remembered something from a few nights before. A message I saw on Caleb's lock screen when he left his phone on the counter, just for a second. It wasn't from a friend. It was from her. A woman. Older than him. You make me feel seen. My breath hitched, my body cold. My son, my baby, was seeking something I hadn't even noticed was missing in his life. The same thing I was aching for in mine. God. Was this all connected? After Daniel went to bed, I stayed downstairs. The house was too quiet now, like it had just witnessed something it couldn't unhear. I curled up on the couch, knees to my chest, and let myself cry for real. Not just because of the fight. But because maybe I'd lost more than just intimacy. Maybe I'd lost the version of myself who believed love would always be enough. And the worst part? I couldn't even tell if I wanted him to touch me again, or if I just wanted him to finally see me. Why does everything have to turn into sex? It's been 13 days since the fight. We haven't touched since. No kisses on the forehead in passing. No arms brushing in bed. No casual hand on the small of my back while I do the dishes. Silence has filled all the places where affection used to live. Daniel's here, but not really. He still makes coffee in the morning, 2 mugs, like muscle memory. Still takes the trash out. Still pays the bills. But he doesn't look at me when he hands me my cup. Doesn't linger in the kitchen anymore. I miss him. God, I miss him. But the air between us feels brittle, like anything I say might shatter it. One night, I watched him from the hallway. He was sitting at the edge of the bed, shoulders hunched, scrolling through old photos on his phone. I saw a flash of Caleb, maybe age 7, sitting on his shoulders at a fair. Then another, us on a beach somewhere, windblown and sunburnt, laughing. He swiped slowly. Then stopped and just stared at the screen. His head dropped. He rubbed his eyes. And I felt like a ghost. I wanted to walk in and wrap my arms around him, to bury my face in the curve of his back the way I used to. But I stayed in the hallway, heart in my throat, afraid my touch might feel more like a wound than comfort. I keep trying to find the version of me who would have gone to him. The one who didn't flinch at closeness. But she feels far away. Like someone I once knew. And yet, every now and then, in the smallest, most inconvenient moments, I feel the pull. Like last night, I found one of his shirts in the laundry basket and held it against my face without even thinking. It still smelled like him. That clean, masculine scent I used to crave. I sat there on the floor, holding it like it might answer something I couldn't ask. Even Caleb has gone quiet. He's been watching us with careful eyes, like he's waiting for the next blow up. I don't know if he knows I saw that message, the one from the woman. I haven't brought it up. Not yet. There's something fragile growing in this house, not just distance, but shame. Like we all feel it, but none of us want to be the first to say it out loud. Daniel hasn't initiated anything in almost 2 weeks. Not even conversation beyond "did you eat?" or "can you grab milk?" And the thing is, I know he's hurting too. He's not the villain in this story. He's a man who shows love in the only language he was ever taught: action, presence, touch. And I rejected him in that language over and over, until he went mute. That's what breaks me the most. I think I wanted him to chase me emotionally, and when he didn't, I punished him for not knowing how. But he's not a mind reader. And I never actually told him what I needed. Now he's quiet, guarded. And I hate that I'm the reason for it. Tonight, I caught him standing by the back door, staring at the moon like it had answers. His profile in the dark, tired, older than his years, made me ache. I wanted to walk up behind him. To say something. Anything. But the words got caught in my throat. So I turned and went back upstairs. Now I'm lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how something that once felt so inevitable, us, could become so uncertain. I miss his laugh. His scent. The weight of his hand resting on my thigh during long drives. I miss the way he used to look at me like I was the answer, not the problem. But I don't know how to reach for him without risking rejection. Or worse, indifference. I know a choice is coming. Try again, or walk away. And tonight, for the first time in weeks, I hear my own voice in the dark asking, "Do I still believe in us?" It was a Saturday morning when I finally said it. Daniel was sitting at the dining table, nursing his 3rd cup of coffee. He looked like he hadn't slept, hair uncombed, hoodie slung carelessly over an old t-shirt. Caleb had left early for a group project, which felt like a silent gift from the universe. I stood across from him, hands wrapped around my own mug like it could steady me. "I saw a message on Caleb's phone," I said quietly. His eyes flicked up. "What kind of message?" "From a woman. Older, I think." I don't know who she is. But, it sounded like more than just talking. Daniel looked away. A long, slow exhale. I had a feeling, he said. He's been off. Yeah. The silence sat between us, full of all the things we hadn't been saying, not just about Caleb, but us. This slow erosion of trust. This ache we'd both been carrying alone. Daniel set his mug down gently. You think this is because of us? I don't know, I whispered. But maybe we taught him love doesn't require being seen. He winced, not defensive, just hurt. Honest. Elise, he started, but then stopped. Looked down at his hands. I don't know how to be what you need anymore. And I'm starting to think I never really did. I sat down across from him. For the first time in weeks, I let myself meet his gaze without flinching. You loved me in the way you knew how, I said. But somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling safe saying what I needed. That's on me too. He reached across the table, slow, tentative. His hand rested over mine. Warm. Familiar. Aching. We stayed like that for a moment. No rush. Just presence. I don't want to fight anymore, I said. But I don't want to keep pretending either. He nodded, jaw tight. Are we saying goodbye? He asked, voice low. I think, my throat tightened. I think we're saying this version of us doesn't work. And maybe it never really did the way we hoped. His thumb brushed the back of my hand, once. I'll always love you, he said. And I'll always wish we'd known how to love each other better, I replied. That night, I found him asleep on the couch, curled up under the throw blanket I always steal. The TV still playing some old documentary he didn't finish. I stood there for a long time, watching his chest rise and fall. Then I walked over and pressed a soft kiss to his forehead, not romantic, not possessive. Just a goodbye dressed as tenderness. Some loves don't end with a bang. They just loosen their grip, until they let go. And sometimes the line that gets crossed isn't betrayal, it's just the slow realization that love without understanding isn't enough. Not for me. Not for Caleb. Not anymore. You think you'll know the moment it all breaks. You imagine some big betrayal, some dramatic slam of a door or a confession whispered through tears. But it doesn't happen like that. Not usually. Sometimes love ends in the quiet. In dishes left in the sink. In untouched coffee growing cold. In a hand not held when it needed to be. My name is Elise. I'm 41. And I used to believe that staying meant success, that commitment was a kind of moral victory. I thought if I worked hard enough, gave enough, swallowed enough, love would come back around. But here's what I learned, love isn't the same as connection. And you can't touch your way back to someone who feels invisible. For a long time, Daniel and I survived on muscle memory. We kissed out of habit. We had sex because it felt like the glue holding everything together. But I wasn't really there. And maybe, neither was he. That was the hardest thing to admit, that I was complicit in the disconnection too. I didn't tell him how unseen I felt. I didn't know how. Every time I tried, the words came out as criticism, or silence, or worse, resentment. And he? He kept trying to fix it in the only language he knew, acts of service, gifts, his body. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't distant on purpose. He was just lost. Like I was. Like we both were. But then I saw that message on Caleb's phone, and everything crystallized. He was talking to an older woman. The kind of message no 17-year-old sends unless something is deeply missing. You make me feel seen, it said. And my heart cracked open in a way I wasn't ready for. Because I knew exactly what he meant. He was reaching for something he hadn't learned to name, the same thing I'd been starving for. Not attention. Not validation. Presence. Witness. Someone to say, I see you. Not just what you do, or who you're supposed to be. But you. It scared me, that my own child might be repeating a cycle I didn't even realize I'd handed him. That's when I knew something had to change. Daniel and I didn't scream at each other. There was no final blow-up. Just a quiet sitting down. A letting go. A moment of honesty we hadn't shared in years. I told him the truth, that I loved him. That I probably always would. But that I didn't know how to keep living in a version of love where I had to disappear in order to be touched. He cried. I did too. But neither of us begged. I think we both knew the cord had already frayed too far. Now, weeks later, I'm learning to be in a room alone without reaching for noise to fill it. I'm learning to feel desire without shame. And I'm teaching Caleb, slowly, imperfectly, what it looks like to want love, but never at the cost of your own voice. If I've learned anything, it's this: affection isn't love. Sex isn't intimacy. And staying isn't always the brave thing. The brave thing is being honest about what hurts before it becomes a habit. The brave thing is walking away when the version of you someone loves isn't you anymore. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm just clearer now. And I want something different next time. Not louder. Not sexier. Just deeper. Quieter. Realer. I want to be with someone who listens between my words. Who doesn't try to fix me, or touch me into softness, but who waits, who sees the storm and doesn't flinch. Someone who understands that real intimacy is not about skin. It's about safety. Daniel wasn't the villain. He was just a man who loved me the best he could. But now? I'm learning to love me better. And maybe, that's the start of everything I was looking for in someone else. 4.